guys, I intended to use this day to put out the Christmas review, but the fermenter's still bubbling. It's been 2 weeks. I don't know what's going on. I will have that video out after Christmas, probably before New Year's, I'm hoping. So this is the American Ale review. This is from the extracts kit I did when we did the More Beer Premium starter kit giveaway, and I hope you enjoy. And for Thursday, December 24th, Jenny and I are putting out a Christmas special for you guys, so stick around. Hey guys, welcome back. So today we are going to try the American Ale that I brewed. It was an extract kit from More Beer, part of their premium starting homebrew kit, and you guys can find the videos of how to brew it up here. So this is bottle conditioned, so I'm going to pour it real slow because there is yeast at the bottom that you can even see in the bottle.
There was an old, this was this really terrible beer, but when Bud Light did, I think it was Bud Light, did one of their promo, like orange something or others, they told you to roll it, which as I learned about beer, I was like, I feel like that bottom part is just a separate experience. Like when you get Belgians that have the yeast that settled, you either like that or you don't. Like rolling
I don't like that.
I don't either. So I'm like,
there are some beers that are meant to have that yeast flavor, like Cooper's Australian Sparkling Ale is supposed to have that. Some wheat beers, because
doesn't Fin de Mon do that a little bit?
I like my Le Fin de Mon clear.
Maybe that's not the one I'm thinking of, but it was one of those where I was like, the more I learned about drinking the beer, the concept of like redistributing that didn't make sense to me. I was like, if it settles, let it settle.
Yeah, for homebrewing, like, typically you're not going to want to, because, like, a lot of the time you're transferring it straight out of the fermenter, so there might be some, like, trub in there, and you don't want that, and it's, like, dead yeast, and it's just, like,
You know, in champagne, that's lees. The dead yeast is a whole thing.
Oh, really?
So have you ever seen...
I know that they freeze it upside down to get rid of the yeast.
And they crack off the lees. Yeah. So that's the reason why they do it upside down. So if you ever watch, like if you look at sparkling wine or champagne, when you see it stored, they're stored at an angle. You ever noticed that? So they store them at like a 45-degree angle. And
I don't drink fancy shit.
But you've watched like some, and you've watched other documentaries and whatever. Anyway, sparkling wine tends to be, I think wine in general is to keep the corks moist also. But with champagne, not all champagne, I don't think, but if they store it like that and they put it in freezing temperatures, the champagne won't freeze, because it's got the alcohol in it.
Yeah.
The water with the dead yeast has enough whatever the chemical.
Yeah, and then it just like pushes itself out because it's carbonated.
And well, it doesn't push itself out. That's why they angle it. It comes to the top, and they can they can open it and let it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And crack it off. It's called the dead yeast, the lees.
Yeah.
I don't know if that term is the same in beer.
I went to a champagnery. I don't know if that's what it's called. I think it was. I'm not gonna remember. Anyway.
Wait,
Mumford?
Then it was not a champagnery, so it's still a winery or vineyard.
Yeah.
However, you know how
Belgian
ales,
champagne, it has to be in Champagne, France.
Yes, so it was they made sparkling wine at that vineyard.
They made sparkling wine. Yeah. It was really interesting. The process of making champagne is actually a lot more similar to making beer than wine is.
Well, it's wine. It's carbonated wine, basically.
Yeah.
You'd still make champagne from a grape. So there's, you make it from Chardonnay grapes or Cabernet grapes. Blanc de Blanc is my favorite from Chardonnay.
Alrighty.
She doesn't care.
I don't know enough to care. This lightened up a lot. So when I transferred this, it was, when it's got trub in it, it's a little darker.
I don't know what that is.
So trub is like the hop yeast slurry on the bottom of your fermenter. So it's what falls to the bottom. So this is obviously clear to it. This is like crystal clear. Crystal clear. What color would you call this? I would almost call
amber.
it amber. Yeah,
it's
like a light amber,
it's almost
rusty.
Orange. Yeah, rusty is exactly right, because it does have.
Here, swirl it so you get some head. I poured it really slow so we didn't disturb any of these.
I think it's funny the more I learn about pale ales, how many of them are not actually that pale.
So this is not pale because we use DME, or LME, so liquid malt extract is typically more dark than a dried malt extract.
I just got a very specific
smell.
smell.
It's hoppy.
There's a restaurant it put me at, but I can't think of the dish. It's a little French toasty, but not. It's not sweet.
I don't know.
It's not maple.
I don't know why I got watermelon.
The rind. Think about French toast before you put syrup on it, but it's just egg bread.
Yeah.
There's something almost proteiny. The rind, I think
smells really good.
The watermelon, I wouldn't have placed that, but I think when you think about the
white
rind.
I think I know it. It's the caramelized sugar from the LME. So LME is darker because some of the LME is liquid malt extract. So they have to basically cook it down to make liquid malt extract. So I think some of it gets caramelized.
It's I'm wondering, it's going to be more intense, right?
Yeah. There's also caramel malts in here too.
It's going a little. So
it's
the
sweet.
French toast that I got was like just the egg bread, but the deeper I go, like it does have a little bit of maple syrup, but not shit stuff. Like the actual, not super super sweet, but like naturally.
It kind of just smells like caramel malts to me.
I think it's kind of.
I'm getting some of the alcohol
plant
now.
sweetness.
I can smell
I'm
it.
tasting.
Interesting.
Need to taste it again. There's a journey.
There's a journey.
Do you think it's breakfasty?
Sweet. Yeah, it's sweet. It's like almost on the verge of an amber, but not quite there.
We talked about cereal a lot when we were tasting the malts. This makes me think of. Do you remember the French toast cereal? They looked like little mini French toasts.
Kind of. I feel like we talked about this exact cereal.
No, we talked about the.
It was like French Toast Crisp or something.
We didn't. That was not one of the ones.
We talked about honey bunches.
That's a lot of cereal.
There's been a lot of cereal had.
But I like that. I like if you and I can find a similar reference point to get our different worlds. It's breakfasty.
It's definitely sweeter than any ale I would have made.
But
I kind of like it.
The hops do linger on the back.
Yeah. I think you get some hops in the front. It almost smells like Cascade, but I'm not sure. I wonder if this is on here. Oh, here. It has Cascade in it. This is the recipe card.
I swear she did not cheat.
I did it.
I mean, she did make it.
It smells like Cascade.
You've probably made, 4 beers since then?
Yeah, at least.
So, she did not cheat. She actually just, didn't remember and
I didn't take the, maybe I did? I don't know if I took the final gravity of this beer.
Was this like a sponsor thing from them?
This is what I gave, this was my giveaway beer.
Okay, so someone else is probably going to do this. How was it to make? How hard was it to follow?
Oh, it's so easy.
That's great. So this would have been, if you hadn't been with me when I brewed my first beer, I could have done this with their instructions.
Oh, yeah. It's easier than the one we made.
And again, you're
like,
talking to
it's
me.
literally just like stirring in like syrup and then like adding hops in the boil. It's like easier than soup.
So this is interesting because you stuck to this recipe, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Like 100%? So
100%.
Theoretically, this should be exactly the same beer that anyone else would get.
Yeah. So there's 1 pound of Crystal 15 in this. And then it's...
we did try that one, right? We didn't use that one in the IPA?
It's the same as one. I think we used Caramel 10 in the IPA. But yeah, it's malt extract and then Crystal 15.
I think flavor-wise, this is an easy enough drink that, like, you know how a lot of people who are getting into beer don't like IPAs or don't like stouts or are much pickier? So if they're starting from really, like, this is just enough hop or just enough depth or just enough weight.
Yeah. It's an easy drinker, too.
What's the alcohol?
That's a good question.
What's the alcohol?
I didn't write it down, but it's around 4.5% to 5%.
This tastes to me like it's higher alcohol than some other beers that we've done recently. It feels like it's more alcohol than the cranberry
I think
water.
it's because it's sweeter, and we just associate sweeter with higher alcohol at this point.
I mean, it is a little sweet, but the hops are what make me think of the alcohol. I think it's not an IPA, obviously, but for pale ales, that kind of like, it doesn't taste like an IPA.
Mm-mm.
But something, maybe it's the color in my head. I would have been curious for you to blind taste me on this one.
Yeah.
Where I would have gone. I mean, you and I were talking about when you told me what it was, and I was like, oh, you should have blind tasted me. And you're like, the color would have given it away. Blind, I probably would have called a pale ale.
Yeah, it definitely tastes like a pale ale. It's, like, I always base my pale ale idea on Sierra Nevada pale ale, but that's a super bitter pale ale. Or Dale's pale ale, also a very bitter pale ale. They're almost on the verge of...
Dale's I haven't had. Sierra Nevada I have. I was just trying to think of it.
They're almost on the verge of IPAs.
That's the experience I've had, is that like I feel like the definition, as people are becoming more educated of what beers are supposed to be rather than what manufacturers made it, pale ale was, people were drinking pale ales because they thought they were supposed to be like pilsners, like they were expecting a pale ale to be light, but that's not what it's supposed to be.
That's more of a blonde almost, if you wanted something that was more
I mean,
like
as a bartender, how often I would get asked for a pale ale and it would get sent back.
Yeah.
Is almost more than any other beer.
Yeah. That's when you just say, honey, you want a blonde.
And I got to the point where if specifically if they didn't know what they said, if they're like, I just want something light, can you give me the pale ale? And depending on which pale ale we had, if I was like, you know, what we just got on is this really great, like, honey blonde. We don't carry a honey blonde, but
I do love a honey blonde.
if it's done right. But yeah, where it's like, if someone's like, I just want something light, just give me the pale ale. And I'd be like, you don't want that. Let me bring you a half. Like,
honestly, I have more trouble drinking pale ales a lot of the time than IPAs because I feel like they rely so much on their bitterness to give them the hoppiness.
Where did the word pale come from?
It's usually pale in color.
But it's also, they're not any paler than a lot of IPAs, right?
No, but IPAs are more hopped.
Was IPA created before pale ales, or were pale ales created before IPAs?
Pale ales before IPAs because IPAs...
But weren't they just called ales?
Probably. Or like bitters or something. I don't know. I haven't gotten that far in my history research.
Okay. You look into the God stuff, the like...
You look into the Jesus stuff.
I'll rephrase that. You keep researching the like historical, regional deities of beer versus wine and the way they were produced side by side or separate. I will look into where the names came from. Because we talked about the India Pale Ale name has multiple origin stories.
But if you think about it, like, they called it India Pale Ale because they were sending it to India.
But that's...
But, so there had to be a Pale Ale already, right? Because there's an English Pale Ale.
I just feel really dumb right now because I forgot that the word pale was an IPA.
So, case closed?
Well, Jenny shut down pretty hard. But, okay, if pale ales existed, what was the alternative? Were stouts the dark ales?
Yeah,
they clearly had something
stouts,
else.
Technically, so porters were the beer that was dark, and then I think stouts they've made after porters were made.
Remember the difference.
Porters are supposed to be a lower alcohol than a stout, technically. But I think the term is almost interchangeable now. Because, like, you can get an imperial porter. Porters can be lighter in color a bit.
Okay,
I'm pulling this out of my butt.
Here's what's going to happen. When we reconvene, we will exchange notes on our research.
Okay.
Because I'm unemployed now, so what else are we going to do?
Fun.
And maybe we'll do like 15-minute lessons that you can put on your Patreon.
Yeah.
That if we do the research, there's no reason that you can't do a little like Patreon only, the history of the gods of beer and wine, or the history of where the names came from. So, you know how you see those things that we're going to do that sound really interesting?
That's what bonus content is called.
How do you get the bonus content, Sarah?
You join the Patreon.
And do you know what else the Patreon does? Supports your favorite brewer. For viewers like you, you will not get a tote bag or a mug.
You might. I have merch.
Yeah, you have to buy it.
Oh, well, you have to be a Patreon to get the merch.
That is part of the...
It's a tier.
Where's my t-shirt?
Literally right there.
Can I change into it?
You rep me more than I rep myself at this point.
I really do. Well, thanks for this. I think this was interesting because this is probably the first beer... No, the second. You did Black is Beautiful. But I was going to say it was not your take on a specific recipe where you like followed somebody else's.
The Black is Beautiful, I did modify the recipe. This is the first like kit I've done.
Since the beginning?
Well, I did one kit when I got my first kit, and then immediately stopped doing kits.
I like that. Did you... Now, this, I guess... Maybe this isn't a question I should ask since you are working with this company. But would you have changed anything?
Honestly, no. I like this.
Then that stands by the fact that this is a great starter, like, balanced,
And okay, so
Not fuck upable.
a lot of people say that like there's this whole like myth around around using extracts to brew beer. So especially like liquid malt extract, like beyond the color, I think there might be a little bit of caramel taste that the liquid malt extract is giving, but it could also be the caramel 15. But like this proves that you can make good beer from an extract kit and from extracts.
Well, doesn't that also
in
support
general.
any other cooking methodology, that if it's malt extract that's actual malts that have been concentrated, then the flavor's real.
Yeah.
Where like vanilla extract is vanilla, but when you get like strawberry extract,
Yeah, that's big.
it is bullshit. So like real vanilla extract is concentrated vanilla flavor.
Yeah.
If it's actually made from, I'm sure you can get bullshit malt flavors, but
Yeah, and like you can get like, okay, so if you go to your homebrew shop, they don't sell a lot of kits. You can get like expired malt extract, and that's what you want to stay away from, but you can also get expired grain.
Would you be able to create recipes at this level for people who can't find kits, that if they go to like,
Yeah.
the whole point of the beginner, and I guess maybe I'm just sensitive to this beginner stuff, that if I looked at one of the recipes that you've brewed recently, I'd be so intimidated. But if you can't find a lot of these, if you gave me one ingredient of each, that might be an easier starting point.
A lot of my recipes, like the rye was different. The rye was a lot of ingredients, but I feel like, especially now, I'm doing like a lot of more simple beers. Like I'm making a fest beer right now. It has
I'm excited
2
about
malts and it has 2 hops. That's it.
So wait, fest beer different than your Oktoberfest,
It's light.
which is a fest actually different than an Oktoberfest?
Yes.
We'll come back to that video to learn
And
about
I'm going to
that.
do some research before I talk out of my ass again about that one. I probably already have, but...
Okay.
But yeah, so, you know, you can convert any all grain recipe. So like my recipes that I post, you can convert them into extracts. There's a bunch of calculators online. You can just plug in what it says for all grain and it'll pop out with how much extract you need. There's a whole conversion thing, but like it's math. We don't need to do the math. It exists on the internet.
Well,
So-
I think it's cool that you actually went back in your, like, to revisit the experience of doing it at this level, to remind yourself.
So nice.
Well, to remind yourself how, I mean, it's only been, what, 2-3 years?
3 or 4, I think.
But the,
yeah.
like,
Not
level
long.
of, for you to go back to that, for the level of experience of and understanding that you've gained, I think that's actually a cool thing to know, that, like, you were able to see that difference. But remember that, like, the reason you got into it was because simple does still taste good.
Yeah, it does.
You don't have to be a genius brewer to enjoy this and make beer you want to drink.
Yeah, you just gotta, you know, pay attention to your fermentation temperature, pay attention to your sanitization, which I'm pretty sure is not a word.
Level of sanitation.
Level of sanitation. And
Perfunctory measures of cleanness.
sure.
Cleanliness. Shit, I still didn't say it right.
But yeah, like, if you follow the instructions, even if you don't follow the instructions fully, as long as it's sanitized and you keep the fermentation temperature consistent and cool. But hard in LA, I dealt with it for a long time. Not ideal. Keep it in AC. But other than that, you can do weird stuff with a malt and it's fine.
That's cool. I think that's cool to see you revisiting it. And you're gonna have to follow up with whoever won it and see what they thought about it.
Yeah.
Get their official review.
I will have to. Well, thanks so much for watching. Like and subscribe. As we already said, I have a Patreon and stuff, and it is up here. So, if you want all the stuff we mentioned before, and
The stuffing and the cranberry sauce and the turkey. You're the turkey.
anyway, you can join. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Oh, also, wait, these are bottles.
Drink the whole bottle.
Drink half the case. Okay.
You drink the whole case.
Okay. And don't forget.
So if it's not a keg, so here's the thing. If it's not a keg, you can still
Drink the whole case.
Not if you're driving.
That's good.
We watched Beer Fest today. Have you watched that movie?
I don't think so.
It's the guys who did Super Troopers.
Oh, really? Wait, I think I have seen it.
If you haven't, it's worth watching.
Really?
It's so bad, and it's so funny.
Bad.
It's like really funny.
But like
Super Troopers.
Okay, Super Troopers is one of my favorite movies. Like,
it's the first 15 minutes. I almost peed my pants the first time I saw it,
good.
and I wasn't high.
I love it.
No, it's one of those things where there's a couple moments in that movie where Marcus and I looked at each other and went, "Yep, somebody thought of that." And we just kept referring back to somebody thought about drunk Canadian police officers drinking maple syrup and driving drunk. So this is the brain that came up with the Beer Fest. It's ridiculous and worth the watch.
Yeah, the maple syrup. They're not Canadian.
Where are they?
They were American Super Troopers. Jenny, get it right. They were not Mounties.
I have not watched that movie sober since high school.
I think that why would anyone watch it sober? I've just seen it enough times that I know all of it.
Did you watch the second one?
Yes.
Thoughts?
Oh, it's fine.
Yeah. And then Slam and Salmon?
I haven't seen that.
That one's pretty terrible.
What's
but
that?
It's another one. They have Broken Lizard as the name of their production company, and they watch Beer Fest.
Okay, I will. Yes, ma'am.
It's amusing. It'll be 90 minutes of your life that you'll be not getting those back, and you'll giggle.
You know how many times I watch Super Troopers a year?
That's time well spent. I really
frequently.
Pretty much only need to
I
watch
actually
the
just
first
want to
15
watch
minutes.
Super Troopers again.
You can do both. They're both 90-minute lovelies.
Rita and I the other night, we were trashed. We watched 4 halves of a movie. We watched the happy points in 4 different movies.
Which movie?
We watched War Games, Count on Me, Cristo.
I don't know. These are the movies you choose to find the happy places in?
What else did we watch? He tried to get us to watch Masterminds. I wasn't into it. I was on a I don't want to watch a happy movie train.
You should watch, oh my god, what's the Disney movie that came out? That's the Dia de los Muertos movie.
Oh, Coco?
Gotta get a good cry on that one. Oh god, it's one of the best.
We watched Megamind last night.
That's a fun one.
I love that
Minions.
movie.
Minions is a good one.
Minions is a good one.
I introduced Marcus to
Despicable Me, obviously.
Monsters Inc. for the first time.
What?
He'd never seen it. We watched 1 and 2.
Oh my god, they're so good.
Yeah.
Oh, Monsters vs. Aliens is good.
Yeah, we saw that. I fell asleep during that one.
I fell asleep during all of them. It takes a miracle for me to stay asleep
We're
during a movie.
we're watching the Avengers movies in chronological order right now.
Oh, good luck.
We skipped Guardians because we've seen those. We're watching Superman right now. COVID. I drink and I watch things.
I drink and I make beer.